Hi, I'm Julie Blanner from the lifestyle website julieblanner.com. Today I'm sharing one of my most popular recipes with you, one I call Firehouse Green Beans. I wanted to give you a little history about the recipe and show you just how easy it is to make them. These have been a favorite in our family since another family invited us to share in their holiday with them. One year my mom was very sick with cancer, and she and my sister went and took one last trip, and I, being a college student at the time and having missed a lot of school, I was unable to get away early. And so a friend of mine invited me over to their home for Thanksgiving, and we later celebrated with my family in a few days. These green beans were served by a fireman who enjoyed them at a firehouse on a weekly basis. Now, I was never a huge green bean fan, and one bite and I was just hooked. Since, I've been bringing them to family gatherings, sharing them at our own Thanksgiving and Christmas get-togethers, and I hope you and your family enjoy them as well. Now, these Firehouse green beans are made with green beans, bacon, shallot, butter, garlic, and a little touch of parmesan. They couldn't come together any easier or quicker. And I'm going to talk about why I use the ingredients I do. Now, I grew up at my grandma and grandpa's farm, and my job was to snap and can green beans. So no one loves fresh green beans more than I do at this point in my life. They're one of my absolute favorites. However, for this recipe for Firehouse green beans with bacon, I like to use French cut green beans. The reason being is that all the flavors really seep into them. They cook so quickly and easily, and you can almost eat them like candy. Now, I know some people are against using these. Of course, you can use fresh green beans. I have tested the recipe with and without. I've used quite a variety through the years, but this is my preference, French cut green beans. Now, of course, you can always make your own bacon and grill it up. Nothing is better than fresh, of course, but I'll give you a little shortcut. Rather than using bacon bits, you can use bacon pieces. They retain a little more texture and greasiness, and they blended into this recipe so well. Another shortcut for my Firehouse green beans with bacon is using minced garlic. I rarely cut fresh cloves of garlic. I actually keep a jar of minced garlic in my refrigerator. It's so easy to have on hand, so potent and fresh in flavor that it's just as easy to use, and I always have it on hand. It's a great staple. So I use that in this recipe as well. And then you can use fresh grated parmesan, but you can also purchase grated parmesan, your pick. For this recipe, I always go to grated parmesan. And finally, where a lot of the flavor comes from is the shallot. Now, shallot is a member of the onion family, but it's just so full of flavor. I often opt to use shallot rather than a standard yellow or white onion in recipes. You'll find a lot of shallot recipes on my site at julieblanner.com. So today, to get started, we're going to dice our shallot. Now, this is what I would consider a large shallot. For this, you're going to use a medium shallot, like I'm slicing right here. And you just remove the skin, slice the shallot, and then we'll give it a little dice. Once we're done with this, we're going to toss it into our saute pan with butter. Now, you can make these Firehouse green beans in any saute pan. I tend to use my cast iron because it goes well from range to table, and it just cooks everything so evenly. We're going to put our heat over medium, and we're going to melt some butter. As the butter begins to melt, then we can add in the shallot. A question that people often ask me is what kind of butter I use. When I'm baking, I tend to use salted, real butter, and when I'm cooking, I tend to use unsalted butter, especially when I'm using canned goods because there's enough salt in them to preserve them already. I don't want to add any additional salt content. And now that just a little bit of butter has melted, we can go ahead and add in our diced shallot. And just another little tip and trick, when you are cutting onions, just like shallots, you can breathe with your mouth open rather than through your nose to eliminate any tears. I know Julia Child said use a matchstick, and that helps you keep your mouth open so that you breathe through your mouth rather than your nose. This will quickly become very fragrant. Another great thing about shallots are that they quickly tenderize. They're much easier to caramelize. They don't take very long. And you'll notice that here, they just become so soft and blend into dishes really, really well. I know we have a little more butter to melt, but we're gonna go ahead and add in our minced garlic. Now with minced garlic, we wanna be really careful. We don't want it to brown or it can kind of get a little funky. So we're gonna reduce the heat. Since I'm cooking on gas, it tends to get a little warm. We'll add in our minced garlic and stir it in. It's so fragrant in here right now. I wish you could smell it. And now we can go ahead and add in our bacon pieces. Really let them marinate with the shallot and minced garlic. And this is again why we can use bacon pieces. It almost brings the grease of the bacon pieces out when you cook them this way. So it's a nice little shortcut. And now that it's all blended together, we're gonna go ahead and add our green beans. I told you this comes together so quick. And we'll stir it together, and that will heat the green beans and allow the flavors to seep in. As you can see, this is not your grandma's green bean casserole. Everyone goes wild over these green beans year after year. We'll go ahead and turn the heat off and garnish them with a little grated parmesan. I hope you and your family enjoy them as well. For more easy recipes, click like and follow along on Facebook. You can also follow along at julieblanner.com for the full recipe.